So if we could call this meeting to order at 6:01 on this March 16th, 2022. So the board meeting this evening is a little different. We're actually going to start out with the holiday waivers hearing, which is it's required to be on public record. So we're going to start out with a conversation regarding that, and then we will transition into our regularly scheduled board meeting when we're completed with that conversation. So if we could start with a roll call, please.
Yes. Colleen Klimczak.
Present.
Claudia Parker.
Here.
Kimberly Laggard, present. Judy Rayson.
Yes.
Rachel Merriquin.
Here.
Michael Onmiller.
Present.
Denise Jones.
Yes.
All is here.
If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. So we will start with the public hearing for the holiday waivers. There will be public participation in a moment, but first, if we could walk through the process again with Dr. Woodland, and I can walk through as well with questions that I've received from the board, and then we'll proceed from there.
Of course.
Thank you.
So a process of scheduling a calendar for a school year is to ensure that any holidays that we opt to waive are also located with the Regional Office of Education. In review of the calendar for next school year with feedback from both our teachers and then during our DIRT committee, we determined that we would like to waive Veterans Day. And as a result, I contacted the Regional Office of Education and they recommended that we waived a variety of holidays just to have them solely on file with the regional office. So then when we submit our calendar to the state of Illinois, those holidays are then referenced through the regional office. As a Board of Education, you have the option tonight to determine, based on the holiday waiver, whether or not you want to exclude any. And we've had conversations about the process of potentially excluding Martin Luther King Day, so that would come with my recommendation. As a result, though, each and every year the school board still determines what holidays they want to observe and what holidays they choose to waive. So for example, Evergreen Park High School, they've previously waived all of their holidays with the Regional Office of Education. However, they still determine which holidays they want to waive and observe in their yearly calendar. So that's just some context, and then I'll open it up to you for discussion and we can determine specific next steps.
Thank you. When I first read about the waiver, you can't see my face behind the mask, but I was like, wait, what? What? So I asked the question right away of what exactly this meant. And mostly it was the idea of we would have the choice. If we went ahead with this waiver, we would then be able to choose from year to year if we were going to observe the holiday with students in school versus outside of school. So we can always observe a holiday, but we would have the choice to have them on the schedule as a student attendance day or student not attendance day. So it really just gives us the choice. It doesn't mean that we're going to not be in school for all 5 holidays. It doesn't mean that we're going to be in school for all 5 holidays. It merely gives us the opportunity to choose from year to year. So it's, like I said, it's not a statement one way or the other. It's really just we have to go through this process to get it on public record at a public meeting, that we have the choice. And that's what we're here to discuss this evening. So the 5 holidays in question are Martin Luther King Day, Abraham Lincoln's birthday, Casimir Pulaski Day, Christopher Columbus's birthday, and Veterans Day. So those are the 5 that we're discussing this evening.
My recommendation again would be to exclude Martin Luther King from the waiver presented tonight. So in the motion, Colleen would then read the motion, approve the waiver regarding legal school holidays, excluding Martin Luther King Day.
Which means we would never, well, per that waiver, we would
always
not We would not. I don't wanna be a double negative. We would always observe with a school, with a non-attendance day, Martin Luther King Day. But we could, again, choose from year to year if we did want to observe Veterans Day by being in school. So I know with my boys, when they did, there was always a really great event at Central Middle School, and I always wondered why we couldn't observe it on Veterans Day, and now I know why. But that was always something that didn't make sense to me, so it makes sense to me now, but I always thought that that would be, we discussed like having a personal opinion about that. So that was kind of what brought it into perspective for me, was to be able to choose one way or the other. So I have talked enough. Other conversation, please.
Any public?
Pardon me?
Is there anyone
There
from
will
the
be, but I also wanted us to have any questions that,
Just to confirm, for
Yes, please.
next year's calendar, it is only Veterans Day that you're saying would be an attendance day for students. So
Correct.
even if we waive for technically next year, the recommendation
certainly.
is going to be still, Pulaski Day would be off.
Correct.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
Columbus Day would be off, Pulaski
Yeah,
Day
cause
would be
I'm
off.
looking at it now,
Martin
right?
Luther King Day would
Okay.
be off, and always if we went with Dr. Woodland's
Okay.
recommendation, and then President's birthday as well, or President's Day.
And do we know, why does the regional office, I know it's just sort of the recommendation so that we would have the option to choose to observe it at school, but what would be the objective of waiving all of these holidays, or is that not our intent?
There is no objective, again, like you could use them flexibly and you can then determine, again, every year as a Board of Education, which ones you choose to waive and which ones you choose to observe. Because every year the calendar is a board approved agenda item. Great question.
My question is, why is it necessary?
To waive?
Why is it necessary to mess with the holidays?
I think really what the intention is that we have to waive Veterans Day because that's the holiday that we're opting to waive next school year. And what they're recommending is once we have a public hearing and waive them, that we have the opportunity in the future to use them flexibly. So then we would never have to have a public hearing again.
So do we have to waive the federal holidays? Because why can't we just waive the non-federal holidays?
So the only thing that within the calendar for next school year, it was recommended from our teachers that they would prefer to observe and actually have students in attendance on Veterans Day. So as a result of that, because we have students in session, we have to waive Veterans Day. So that would be my one recommendation. We can choose to exclude the other holidays. If that's the choice that you want to make tonight, we can choose to do that.
Well, my choice is to not waive any of the federal holidays.
Okay.
Because that's the reason why they're in place, for us to observe the holiday. You have veterans who fought for their lives, many died while fighting
Sure.
different wars. They lost limbs, they returned with PTSD. We honor them. Why would we just kind of stab them in the back by just bypassing it, waiving it, and allowing the kids to go to school and just people to work? Similar to the other federal holidays. People died to have these holidays in place. I think we should keep the federal holidays as they are and waive the non-federal holidays. That's my suggestion.
I can only speak from experience. When we had a prior superintendent, we did waive Veterans Day. Teachers wanted it. It was a huge celebration. We had hundreds of people flood Central Middle School with their people of veterans, listen and celebrate with our students. It was the biggest form of gratitude that I can think that the kids could actually enjoy with the veterans on their day. So when you say stab it in the back, I would, as somebody who was in the buildings and saw it with my own kids, it was one of the most touching touching things that day that I saw, that these kids were in school on that day. The schools, I remember being at Northeast. I believe I hit all the celebrations, and the amount of celebratory, thank you for being in school, thank you for being here on our day to honor us. I don't think it was necessarily seen as a bad thing. Like the veterans that came for a couple, like, I wanna say maybe, it was only like 2 or 3 years that we had it, and then we did revert back to honoring them as a day off. So then we would invite them, usually the day prior, I believe, like to the, but it's certainly veterans. Yeah, I would not say that that was done as a form of like trying not to honor them. It was really the opposite, how lovely they were that day.
I'm not saying try not to honor them, because we honor the veterans in all different type of ways. You know, but give them that day, that's their day, they fought for that day, give it to them. I mean,
That's it, they like to come to our schools to celebrate, I agree with you though, but see, I look at it this way. We had standing room only. The following year that we did it, we had to make sure that we could manage it. So I don't say we, but I remember Central had to manage that they could actually get all of the veterans in, because they did love the idea of celebrating their day they go around and go to breakfasts, and then they go over to the schools, and then they go get their lunch, and yeah, I know Northeast, I could just remember being at Northeast, and they did theirs outside, and it was just packed out there with the veterans. So I just think, I think we're like putting I don't know, there's also a thought, like, I get what you're saying, like, the holidays are like supposed to be, important.
And because if we do Veterans Day this year, then you said the next school year, it'll be another day. The following year, it'll be another day. I mean, they're in place for us to be off, or, I have to work. But for people to be off,
There are a lot of families that for years have traditions of how they spend their 3-day weekends around these specific holidays.
Absolutely, yes.
So I don't disagree with Denise on principle of the holidays are in place for a reason, as well as families who go to their lake houses, they go to the same places on vacation every single year. It's people's birthdays, you know what I mean? I don't understand why there is a necessity to remove the holidays from the school calendar. That's
We're
the
not-
hard part for me.
Yeah,
I
we're
don't
not
understand
trying
why
to
it's
do that.
necessary.
Yeah, and we're not trying to do that. This is just a process that we have to fill with the Regional Office of Education. So like if you'll notice on the waiver, the remaining holidays on here, we're still determining to observe. And next year, let's say for example, we want to continue to observe Veterans Day, we can continue to do this. The Regional Office of Education just requires us to waive at a bare minimum in order to approve our calendar, Veterans Day. We would have to do that. Because within our school calendar, it specifically states that we intend to have school students in session for Veterans Day next school year. The following school year after that, if we choose to observe that holiday, we can then choose to observe that holiday. So it's again just giving us flexibility. As a reminder, like for example, you're in Oak Lawn 123, right? So like Oak Lawn 123, they have all their holidays waived with the Regional Office of Education, and I get a printout of every single school district. But did you observe holidays this year?
Almost all of them except Veterans Day, we do very similar to what
Yeah.
Kim described, and having a big celebration, inviting veterans in, and it's a learning day for students about veterans.
And that's it's just a process that we have to file with the Regional Office of Education.
It basically says we
Evergreen-
don't ever have to do it again then,
So we
right?
never have to do it again. Evergreen Park High School, did your kids have holidays at Evergreen Park High
Of course,
School?
they celebrated
They're
all of them.
all waived with the Regional Office of Education. It's just a process that we have to file with the regional office in order to waive Veterans Day.
Well, we
No,
could
we
technically just waive Veterans Day.
You could, and then we,
I know we're saying we're not gonna, observe these days, but I read this, look,
Yeah.
I've looked at this over and over and I kept saying, but the way you look at it, it makes it look like, oh, we could choose, this time next year, this time, this.
Willy-nilly, take off
And I'm like,
any
if
day
we're
you
only
want.
going to do Veterans Day, let's waive Veterans Day. I mean, at my school, I teach as well, and that's the only holiday that we go, and I agree, the same thing, we do a big celebration for the veterans and that, but it's the language thing. I like the idea of just, if we're taking off Veterans Day, that's on the calendar.
But the bottom line is that even if we waive it, just say we all accept it, we still have to approve our yearly calendar. So it's not taking anything away from us at local control. It's just a piece of paper that says, we don't have to ask them every year to waive Veterans Day. We're just gonna waive them all. We know as a school community, we wanna honor all of these days. We feel right now strongly that maybe Veterans Day should be an in-person learning day. To me, it's just like a piece of paper that says, okay, but next year, and we know.
It's a hoop we have to jump
Why do the
through.
teachers want to be in school on Veterans Day? What was discussed in that conversation?
The celebration and then the opportunity to flip that day, that if you look at that calendar week,
We still have the celebration, so let's remove that from the discussion. What is the reason
so
why
if
we
you
need to
look
be
at
in
that
school?
week, next year, there's also election day within that week. So, and also parent-teacher conferences.
Okay.
So it would be very disruptive to the student environment to not have student attendance. And then we have to have a requirement of 176 student attendance days, so we flipped that day with December 22nd, I believe it is, as well.
So it
Because that
poses a
week-
problem for that particular
That
week because
particular
of the
week,
other things
because
that
of
are happening.
election.
Election day, we would not be in the building. We'd be
Like
in the
nearly at all.
building one day that
Okay.
week, so the teachers were looking for some consistency.
Sure.
So if we could looking at that, thank you, thank you all. And we do have a public comment, but this is part of the public hearing, so, I appreciate that. So there's no continuity if they're gonna be a half day, an off day, we cannot be in the buildings on an election day, right? We can't have strangers in the buildings and our students. So the teachers asked for that, so they could be at least 2 curricular days that week,
Okay.
to be able to.
So it's not for the veterans celebration, because we're still gonna celebrate veterans regardless. So it's really about the conflict for that particular week that Veterans Day falls.
This particular time.
Okay, that helps.
So it's getting curricular time in for our students and not just a day in a
Right.
week in early November. So that's really the challenge.
Michael, we haven't heard from you. How do you feel?
Listening, I feel like it's
Observing, yes.
I feel like it's more ministerial than anything else. We are in complete control of what days we choose to observe, and if we feel this strongly about it when we do the school calendar, we're empowered to change it or to
Right.
continue to observe it. I think it sounds like it's what a lot of our school districts around us are doing, and it feels like a modernization, and I'm in favor of that because I think it's important that we continue to try and be on par with our sister districts.
Thank you. And I don't know if there's a public comment, and as on the agenda, this is supposed to be kept to half an hour for the public hearing. So to not put anybody on the spot, I do have a public comment for Nilda Ramirez. Thank you. So if you could come up, and we do limit our public comments to 3 minutes, but thank you and welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hi. Thank you. So I'm a veteran. Many years ago, I served in the U.S. Air Force. I was deployed when I turned 20 years old. And it is true, one time, many years ago, my mother-in-law had a celebration in her classroom for Veterans Day because CPS doesn't, or at that time didn't, they attended school or do attend school. I'm actually against this. I'm strongly against it because although I had fun going into that classroom, I now have children of my own. I want to celebrate with them. I do go to breakfast. My husband takes the day off, and he doesn't typically take days off. My husband takes the day off to be able to do that. I have friends that are mothers that are married, wives that are married to men that are in the military at the current time that are scared to death because they don't know if their husbands are about to deploy. Thousands of individuals are deployed at this moment, right? I understand that it's a hectic week, and I much prefer a hectic week than to take this day away from being able to celebrate with my children. Many children, we can't celebrate with Casimir Pulaski. We can't celebrate with Lincoln. There's no possible way to go to breakfast with either one of them. I can go to breakfast with my child. Children in the district can go to breakfast with their grandparents, their parents, their brothers, sisters, what have you. So I'm here to kindly ask, do not go ahead and waive this. Waive any of the other ones. Start the school year a day earlier, end it a day later. Just do not waive this one because I do not think it's right.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Appreciate that, and yes, thank you for your service, that's true. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So is there more? We won't vote on this until much later, at the end on our consent agenda.
What we would need to determine is what holidays we'd like to exclude from the waiver,
Okay,
if there's any that we wanted to exclude.
Exclude the federal holidays
Okay, Michael?
and use the non-federal holidays.
What does that look like, excluding the federal holidays?
So we would have to
Be in session.
be
on
in
those
session, and then we would have to bring back the school calendar next month, because one of the federal holidays is Veterans Day.
Okay, let me make sure I said be in session meaning.
students in the building.
No, that's not what I mean.
Oh, no, we understand.
No, we
I
understand
hear
what
you.
you're
Michael
saying.
I hear
needed
you.
clarification.
Good.
No, I hear you. Okay, so, okay, and then Michael, do you have,
I feel like we would still have control over whether or not to observe the holiday.
okay,
I'm in favor of waiving it, just so that we have the power to decide what we're going to do,
all five?
which ways. Yeah, carving things out seems necessary.
Okay, so Denise was no federal. And
I am in favor of leaving the federal holidays alone to where we do not have the option to touch them. I agree with Denise. There are a lot of sacrifices and bureaucracy that was cut through in order for these days to be observed. And I do not think our one public comment stands as a lone voice. I think there are a lot of people in our community that will want these holidays to remain non-school days. So I'm in favor of leaving the federal holidays as non-attendance days and waiving the non-federal.
Okay. I am in favor of local control. So I am in favor of having the opportunity to choose on all five. So, Judy?
I agree with you about the local control. I think it's more of a calendar issue for us to determine as a board. I think the waiver is a good thing to give us that choice.
Okay, thank you. Rachel?
I'd like to keep the days as non-attendance days.
All five? Okay. So none at all, okay.
Wait, can you clarify that, Rachel?
I'd rather how, I've been having this back and forth with it. I like I said, the federal holiday should stay as is, where it's not attendance days,
Non-student attendance, okay.
non-student.
So I feel like it's two different issues, like, one has to do with the calendar and one has to do with the waiver. On the waiver, I say it's just administrative paperwork, quite frankly. At the end of the day, we still vote on the calendar. It's up to us to do that. And I agree, and thank you for your comment, because it is important that we still consider all that. But like, to me, that's a totally different issue. That's voting
I
on
see
the
it.
calendar.
I see voting.
I see it as,
Yeah, no,
so
absolutely.
as far as voting for the waiver, I am very comfortable voting to accept the waiver, like voting, so that it's still our own local control. We still get to determine and drive the calendar and what's best for our students and their families, so I'm okay with doing a waiver.
So we have 4 that are for all 5. We have 1 that's not at all, and we have 2 that are no federals. So we could move forward with your recommendation. If we choose to not do federals, that will impact our ability to vote on the calendar this month, because we'll have to move things around for next month. So I don't know where that leaves us with language.
So since we have 4 board members that are willing to waive the holidays, we can proceed with the waiver tonight.
Because they're two separate votings.
They
We're
are
voting
two
on the
separate
calendar
votings.
and
Right,
we're voting on the
right,
waivers.
absolutely.
But the purpose
I
of
was
voting
voting
on
on
the
the
waiver
waiver.
is to vote on the calendar that we don't want changed. So we're split.
If we don't accept the waiver with Veterans Day as an in-school day, we cannot accept the calendar tonight.
Right.
Right.
Right. I'm just
That's the
clarifying.
point. We're split. We do
Okay.
not agree.
And those are 2 different items on the agenda.
Right.
So, okay. So, thank you again. And I think that means, do we have any other public comments? No. Okay, so we will officially adjourn the holiday waivers hearing and resume with our routine meeting. Okay, told you it was different tonight, so
So
thank
we
you.
are ending this,
We're ending this at 6:27.
okay.
And we are continuing with I know, right, but we're still here, with our regularly scheduled regular board meeting. So I guess I'm calling that meeting to order at 6:28. And we will approve the agenda as it is presented in front of us. Knowing that we will get to the consent agenda at the end, that we'll have the opportunity to choose the waiver and the calendar in 2 separate items. So if we could take a glance at the agenda, and if I could have someone make a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Thank you, Michael, and a second.
I'll make the second.
Kim, and a roll call, please.
Yes. Michael Allmiller. Kim Leonard, yes. Colleen Clemson.
Yes.
Claudia Parker.
Yes.
Judy Basin.
Yes.
Rachel Merrickwin.
Yes.
And Denise Jones.
Yes.
Motion is passed.
Great. And so we will move on to our staff reports, which start with Dr. Woodland.
Okay, our very first up is an update on our community education class. Thank you, Jan. You can come on up and share all the fun and exciting things that you're doing with our community. It's great to see you tonight.
Nice to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for letting me be able to provide you with an update. I'm sorry, I'm out of my own mask here.
Hi, right?
Yeah. As I mentioned in the written report, the community education classes started back in 2014 as part of the strategic plan at that time. The way it was structured at that time was a little different than how we're doing it now. And at that point, they would decide on classes, decide on teachers, and then put it out to the community as far as getting people to register for these classes. And if there were enough people registered for the class and enough payment coming in to pay the teacher, the class would take place. If not, the class would be canceled. So when I started in 2015, took a look at it, came up with the idea of if we could get volunteer teachers. Having been in the district for 20 years, I know quite a few staff members, and I was able to get some volunteer teachers. And then along with that, I went out to the community to try to get donations for the classes so that we could offer them free of charge so that everyone in the community who wanted to take a class could take a class. So that's how we're doing it currently. And a number of classes have taken place, as you see, in the first semester. And we just had, starting the second semester, we just had a class on Friday. It was our DIY spa class. It was very well received. And they made a sugar scrub, a lip scrub, and a lip shine.
Oh,
So
I love it.
everyone left with a little packet of
Oh, those flowers are beautiful.
the flowers. That class was sponsored by Mariano's, and they sent their floral design person from their florist shop, and
Wow.
along with all these flowers and baskets, and it was a holiday project. And
Those are gorgeous.
yeah,
Wow.
and she said they last about a month. The one she made as a demo, she gave to me, and it did. It lasted about,
Oh,
they were beautiful. Back to the DIY spa. I'll just-
Sorry.
The recipe online.
Oh,
I'm
oh,
just
I
kidding, I'm
could.
just kidding.
So that'll pass around, but it was a fun class. So we had that class coming up this Friday. It's the bird feeder class. And that's a kid's class. That's just a prototype of the bird feeder that we'll be making. But Brian Decker, our maintenance supervisor, is the one that's going to be teaching that class. And his wife, who's a realtor with Berkshire Hathaway, is funding the class.
Oh,
So-
that's awesome.
So it's-
Shout out to Pam and Brian, that's
Exactly,
awesome.
yeah, so that'll
They
take
are
place.
great.
And we do still have a CPR class coming up, a greeting card class, baking class, and cupcake decorating class. So the cupcake decorating class, that'll be done with Mariano's as well, and they'll send their person from the bakery section, along with piping bags for the kids, and the kids will be decorating cupcakes for spring or Easter, whichever they choose to do.
That's awesome.
But I did want to highlight a few of the classes. CPR and first aid classes, we've been doing those since 2015.
I took one. I
Did
took
you?
it at Southeast, yeah, Southeast
Yes.
Library a couple years ago.
I always have them at Southeast,
Yeah,
yeah. Now we're doing them at the firehouse, it's a little easier
That makes sense.
for them not having to bring the mannequins. But as I mentioned in the report, 185 people were trained, either staff or community members, through this program in CPR, and 133 in first aid.
That's fabulous.
And the fire department has volunteered not only their instructor for this, but they've also volunteered they've also donated all the materials for this. So it's been a great partnership, so. And then I wanted to also just mention a few other things. We do have, try to have every year, and I know Colleen was part of this, our coffee with the Senator Cunningham comes, and Kelly Rourke, right here, right? And it's always a small group, which I'm sometimes disappointed about, and then talking to Senator Cunningham, he's like, they're always like this, Jan. He said they're always a small group, and but he said we like that because we get to really talk to individuals, and they really did. I mean, at the end of the meeting, there were people that had specific concerns, and they sat with them one by one, and they got their addresses, they got their information, and they took care of things. So so
How many people were there this time?
there were they 8 maybe?
Yeah, I feel like when I've gone, there's usually between 8 and 10,
Yeah,
yeah.
And
it's
very
always-
specific questions,
small
like,
group.
what are they doing at the corner of blah,
Yes,
blah?
yeah,
But I mean, it was
exactly.
really, you got to ask that.
Yeah, exactly.
And to
Yes.
get it going, they also
Oh, yeah,
gave
they're
you
good.
the,
Oh, no, I've gone.
like the
I need to go.
update of what's going on in the, if we didn't have any questions right away, it was also well, here's what other people have asked, here's what's going on kind of thing. So they were really good at breaking the ice too,
Oh, very much
and
so.
then sharing whatever people really wanted to know about.
Yeah.
So it was great, it was
I-
really useful. And there's another one coming up, not us, but there's another one coming up at the Village Hall
Oh, okay.
on this Saturday, so.
Okay, great.
And that was the point that I was gonna make, because they are both so very active in the community, that it doesn't require a large crowd because they make themselves so available so often that would speak to. I have a question about the CPR
Certainly.
and the first aid. What is the minimum age that a participant is allowed to be?
13.
13.
Right,
Okay, good.
right. I mean, someone can come to the class and observe it younger than that,
Sure.
but they will not get their certificate
Okay.
unless
And those are all free.
they are all free.
That's amazing, because
And I
they
mean-
do cost money
It costs
outside
money,
of that.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
That's
priced them
amazing.
at around $130.
Yeah.
So we're fortunate to get that
absolutely.
partnership.
Kudos.
And the other partnership I wanted to mention to you is our partnership with Moraine Valley Community College. And that's been going on since 2015. And we've had English classes for our parents and community members, and whose primary language is not English. And we started off very strong on this. A lot of our parents were trained or were taught English. A lot of them tested out of the program. Some of them went to Moraine Valley to further their education. And then we got down to 4. And I was concerned that we would not be able to continue having this program with that low of number, because we partner with Moraine Valley and we do not pay for they take their teacher as an ESL teacher through their grant. We do have a paraprofessional through our ESL grant. So I asked them, would there be a possibility of partnering with neighboring school districts to get their parents involved, to get our numbers higher so that we can keep this going. They agreed to that. So I worked with School District 123 and then 126 and their ESL directors. And they didn't give me numbers. I said, just let them come, you know. I had the room set up for 15 and the teacher walked in and she's like, oh, you're optimistic, you know. Well, 27 people.
Oh, wow,
That's great.
So we do have that class going. That class is virtual since COVID, and it meets on Tuesdays and Thursday evenings from 6 to 8.
Wow, 27.
27.
That's what the teacher was like, oh, great.
Well, they added another paraprofessional from Moraine, actually.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
just to help out.
Congratulations.
Because they're very differing ability groups.
For sure.
So, that's all I have.
No, thank you. Those are great updates. And I'm so glad that these classes are successful.
I know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I will be at the bird making one.
Oh, very cute. I like that.
Ready for a
Bird's
good
happy.
time.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate all your work. Our next topic, this is somebody you should know, and we would like to take the opportunity as an administrative team to honor our social work team. And they are here tonight. I mean, talk about a group of dynamic educators who have really gone above and beyond during this pandemic and really responding to all the needs of kids. So Dr. Newman is going to speak on our behalf and share information on all their hard work and dedication this year.
Thank you. So last week was National School Social Work Week, but the entire month is Social Work Month.
Nice.
So you can recognize them at any time.
There you go.
So we are recognizing Carrie Dickman. Caitlin York. I don't see Sierra Dick. She couldn't make it. Yvonne Flores. Sarah Murphy. Enrique. And so the theme for the School Social Worker Week is Time to Shine. Rebecca Oliver is the president of the School Social Worker Association of America, and she stated that school social workers are often the voice for students and families, and they shine a light on the need for mental health services, and they offer support and hope. And I have no doubt that our teachers, our administrators, and parents can assert that each and every one of our school social workers are dedicated to ensure that our students' social emotional needs are met. On top of their responsibilities, which include but are not limited to meeting individually with students, facilitating groups, facilitating second step lessons, collaborating with colleagues, writing social histories and IEPs, developing behavior plans, and linking families to resources, they are also the mental health first responders in crisis situations. They are called when we need them the most. When students are presenting with behavioral challenges, when we suspect possible child abuse and neglect, when students may be at risk of harm to themselves or others, and also in times when our school community has experienced a loss. Our school social workers have shown empathy and compassion and the skill set to help all of us cope. We are so very proud to have all of these social workers a part of the EP family. And for all of these reasons and so much more, they are someone you should know.
So we will now have you come up and we're going to take a big group picture. So Yvonne, come on up. We'll give you all your lovely...
Who's taking the picture?
I can take the picture.
Come on, no. know, you're being in the picture.
You should be in the picture.
All the board needs to be in the picture.
You're the photog, but
Ashley was
gotta
in the
be in
picture.
there.
Oh,
Come on, Yvonne, come on up.
Come on up.
I don't know if we're
Yes, no, all of you come up at the same time.
You don't have to wait.
Carrie, come on up.
Come on, Rachel, Judy.
Thank you so much for all your service. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Sarah Murphy. Rosanna. I haven't seen you in so long. I know.
It was like,
You. I
haven't seen her in like years. I feel like I know. Yeah. Well,
Here's that here tonight.
Yeah, we'll go
Since
behind.
I'm here in.
Right? Okay.
All right.
All right, huddle up, everybody.
Okay, they're coming around
Oh, they're
now.
coming around.
Yeah,
The short people are behind.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'll be glad
Appreciate you guys so much.
Vita, I think you should probably be in the picture.
Yeah.
Get in here.
Jenna.
Are you serious?
Jenna.
I was like, but you look so good. You don't need.
Yeah, who's
This week.
Everyone look at me first. All right, look right here.
Send it to me, Scott.
Got it.
He's like, hold on, more.
Oh my gosh, how many phones? Oh my goodness. Thank you guys.
Okay, wait, you went.
Yes, good composition, girl.
Wait, the phone matches the dress.
Exactly.
Nice, right? Nice. I love it.
Thank you very
Thank you so much.
I know, what a couple of years.
Right?
What a couple of years.
So Ms. Mariquin just said, wow, what a couple years. So we should be appreciating our social workers even more for everything they've done. Thank you so much.
Go celebrate with each other.
So thank you, Dr. Newman, and I say thank you, but they had places to be, but I'm so glad they were here. That's really awesome, and we really do just owe them a debt, a will of gratitude for everything that they've done and continue to do, so. Awesome.
Okay, so our next topic for the night is our COVID-19 resolution. Again, as we've shifted to the ability to make some more local control decisions, this is truly just a resolution to provide us as a Board of Education with the opportunity to make decisions related to COVID-19 measures in the event we need to make those decisions. Knock on wood, we're doing really good.
Yeah.
And I'm keeping my fingers crossed, right, that we continue to put safety of students and staff at our forefront of our minds, and that we continue to close the year positively, and that we do so with a great success. And I'm positive that we'll continue to do that. So that's an action agenda tonight, and Colleen will read the long, lengthy resolution when we get to it.
And again, it's just what we've already discussed at our last meeting, exactly 4 weeks ago, also on the 16th. And so it's just a continuation of that. Okay. Cool. And next?
Next, the calendar update. We've already talked about the calendar quite a bit. However, just to give you a preview, so our
Oh yeah, that one's so textbook, sorry, she's like.
no, this one looks much better.
Color is so helpful.
Do
The
some
colors.
couple of different highlights. So just so you're aware, first day of student attendance will be projected on August 22nd. That will be a half day of student attendance. We'll continue to observe some of our late starts, and we worked through that together. Our teacher institutes, we still have teacher institute, obviously August 18th and 19th. October, and then if you want to switch to the next page, we have another one in February and January as well. And then we have the intent of getting out on June 6th. So I learned something fun with the calendar this year that I'm going to share with everyone, and that's that a full day of parent-teacher conferences actually applies as a student attendance day when we file with the state. So we still have 176 student attendance days, we have 5 institute days, we have 2 full days of parent-teacher conferences, 1 full day in the fall with a half day that backs to it, and then a half-day again in the spring.
Say that
Yeah,
again.
what was it about the
Say that
full day
again,
of parent
'cause,
teacher
yeah.
conferences?
Right?
I'd like you to repeat that.
is very
Yes.
Yeah, I was about to write that down.
So
Can
it
you
was
say
like my
that again?
fun fact. Trust me, I spent like 3 hours on this one. Because I had to find the student attendance day somewhere, and a full day of parent-teacher conferences actually counts as a student attendance day when you submit to the state.
Thank you.
That's very interesting. That's
Fascinating.
not what
And
we
you
have
can
been
use-
told.
And you could use up to 2.
Really?
Yeah. I bet you could go back and look because Evergreen Park's always done it in the past. I kept looking for the day, Kim, and I finally found it.
Excellent. All right. They should. It's all about kids that day. I mean, it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What is that CD on the 5th? Is that in-class day for students?
What month?
5th of June.
June 5th.
June 5th is a clerical day. A clerical day is in our contract, our CBA, our collective bargaining agreement with our teachers. And it's a requirement that we provide them with a clerical day. And it's essentially a day for them to submit all student records that are required by the end of the school year.
But it's
So
not
no
a,
intent, no intent.
No
student
attendance.
No attendance, correct. Great question. And it's specific to our contract and it has to be in our calendar. It's a requirement.
But the last student attendance day would be June 2nd, 2023.
No, it's June 6th.
A half day.
So there's nobody there on Monday and then we come back for,
That's what I'm saying.
does it have to be set?
There's
I know we gotta
student
have the
attendance
clerical
day
day,
on
but does it have to be that Monday?
That has always been the preference of teachers is that we do the clerical day and then we have the half day of student attendance day after.
I think it's actually in the contract.
Yes, it
It's
is.
in the contract.
Doesn't matter what I think.
Contract when you.
Contract
But
or
it doesn't
contract.
have to be on
Contract
that
won't
day.
necessarily be
It
the
doesn't have
current
to
We
be.
contract.
can't wait until negotiations are complete to make that kind of a decision.
So I believe the collective bargaining agreement allows them to have one CD day prior to the end of the school year.
Correct. It's a
And it has to
requirement.
be before report cards are given out, cause that's what, it's basically a report card day.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So they couldn't
It's all
use that on the 1st, and the last day of school be on the 2nd. That's just impossible.
No,
No.
cause we don't have enough school days then.
We need 176 student attendance days. It's a requirement of law.
Could we see the previous slide for just a moment?
The first half.
Sure. Thank you. Jenna, would you mind explaining that week in November again, so we can get a better understanding of the conflicts that we're.
Yeah, so we've always had parent-teacher conferences this week in November. And because of the 8th, next year is election day, and we have to observe that holiday, and we have to mark it with the state of Illinois as a holiday. That's a requirement, so we have to observe that holiday. Then we opted to put the full day of parent-teacher conferences on that Monday, and then the half day of parent-teacher conferences on Wednesday. And so then students will have attendance on Thursday and Friday.
Okay, thank you.
So it became a really tricky week for a lot of school districts, not just ours. Any other questions about the calendar?
Oh, can I make a question? Can I? I just think it's a way you can try to have the last day of school on that Friday. It gotta be a way, because for the students to return to school on a Monday, well, they don't
On
want to be in
Tuesday.
school on Monday.
Yeah, they'll return on
And
Tuesday.
then go on Tuesday for half a day, they could have been vacationing Friday.
Is it from report card distribution? Is that the main reason?
I mean, we need 176 school days in the school year. And when we brought this to the DIRT committee, one of the main things that they said, and we talked through the option of moving up the calendar in August. Am I on August?
Other way. Sorry, thank you.
So I talked through the option of moving it up so we could start to institute days this week. And it was the preference of that committee to continue to push it back, that it was not successful in the past with the community and or the teachers to move the holidays, to move the start date forward. And so then we agreed with that particular committee that we would keep the start date the same and that we would get out on the 6th.
But then you're holding families up from,
Well, it's either gonna be in August or in June. Like, there's really no way, and if
well,
we,
it should be that they get out and have that full week out in June. It just, to hold the family up from going on vacation, which families vacation in June,
certainly,
to hold them up from vacation and that fight to be out of school on a Monday and a half a day on Tuesday, that clearly just doesn't sound right.
understandable, but there's only so many ways that we come up with the 170.
Like, yeah, the only way you could do that is like take away a day off of their Christmas, and I wouldn't want, I mean, everyone looks forward to their Christmas break, you could take a day or two off of there.
And if we see December 24th, December 23rd is a Friday this year.
Right.
So that was a conversation we also had at district review of when teachers would want to, or
Right.
when families would want to be off. You know, if we're gonna
Like,
travel to see my
I
family
wouldn't wanna
in
work on the
Michigan,
23rd, I
exactly.
want the 23rd off, I don't wanna work that day because.
So it's definitely a give and take.
Yeah,
You know, that's
So
That's
it
what
was
we have
also
to be.
suggested that families don't vacation in June, which they actually do vacation in June.
certainly, I mean, maybe just
but
not
they know
until
the calendar,
they're,
they'll know
they're
the
out,
calendar, we're
right.
voting on it now, I mean, they will have till next, that's not, a year from June is when they have to, I mean, that's a long time to have to.
I mean, it is a long time, but they did have days where the last day of school, I mean, not during COVID years, of course, these last couple of years, but there were days when classes ended that a few days after Memorial Day. It seemed like it's been pushed back to June. And then if we were to have school days, it's gonna be pushed back even further into June.
What do you mean school days?
Snow days, I'm sorry.
We've really shifted to e-learning, and I think that's really helped us significantly, so I really do not foresee the need for emergency days. We have to put them on our calendar, but however, we had 3 this year, and then we won't have to make those days up, which is definitely, like, having an e-learning plan in place really allows for our calendar to stay put, and then we can continue to honor our calendar and make sure it's transparent to our community.
And I think we also try, and I don't know if we did this year, try to also
Yes.
mirror the high school. So
We
if
did
we
that.
start a week earlier than them, then we get out at the end of the school year a week before them. And quite frankly, that screws up just as many vacations and babysitting concerns, because the challenges then are, what am I going to do with that week of that child now who gets out in June? The high school is still, now the high school actually typically gets out a little earlier than us. But,
And really, what we did was mimic the calendar from this current school year. It was mimicked with the flexibility of obviously the holiday with Christmas fell a little bit different than normal. So it really typically, it's a mimicked holiday from this current school year.
Do you coordinate with the high school ever? Do you ever?
I saw their
Okay.
calendar and like, yeah,
Okay.
we do intertwine and exchange and
Okay.
it's very similar to ours.
unfortunately,
And
there's
they
no way
actually-
to make everyone happy.
Obviously.
I know, I get it.
I
So
know.
I understand, we have to make decisions, and I do, I really do. I mentioned I have to take my son to college, and, you know, in the weekend, I know we have teachers that have to do the same. So doing it earlier in August is not always feasible either. So, we have to commit to our necessary days and figure out how to make, I guess, as many people as possible, as happy as possible, knowing that we can't obviously make everyone happy all the time, so.
when is our summer school running? Is it running again July, August, or are we gonna run it June and July this year?
Haley, do you remember the dates?
It's like mid-June to July, yeah.
Thank you.
So
Nothing like putting me on the
it's
spot there.
kind of like, and it's also then, again, those kids are gonna be, you know, those kids will be here anyway, cause they'll be going to summer school.
Some. Other questions, other concerns?
Our next topic is graduation planning in our 5th grade transition, and we're gonna invite Mr. Swilly up to share a few quick updates.
Good evening, how is everyone?
Hello.
It's good to see you again. For a graduation update, I guess I'll start a little bit backwards and let you know that we came back from Christmas break, immediately communicating and creating timelines with parents. January 7th is when we had our measurement for caps and gowns. And the distribution of the caps and gowns were February 25th is when we distributed those. The kids were very, very excited. Had to make sure we sent information home to parents to remind them that they should come home with the cap and gown. So, March 4th was our picture day. It was absolutely a great day to see everyone all dressed up, ready for their pictures. We have a picture retake date scheduled for April 8th. Coming up soon for those who may have missed, for whatever reason they may have missed. We are trying to work out the logistics, the cost, and all these things for a trip to Six Flags this year for May 19th is the scheduled date right now, but again, that is very tentative. We're working on trying to confirm that. Chaperones will be needed, so we'll be communicating with parents about helping out and being in that space with us if we are able to confirm all those things. The dinner dance is then scheduled at Central for May 20th is the date for the dinner dance from 6 to 8. Of course, we'll need chaperones also for that date. The graduation rehearsal date and location, of course, is May 24th at Evergreen Park High School. We will be sending out permission slips for students to take home because we'll be walking over to the high school in order to do the graduation rehearsal, and that is something that I understand is a common practice that we do every year.
That is May 26th,
Pardon me.
Thursday.
Rehearsal date is the
Okay.
24th.
Okay, thank you. I
Yes.
was like, wait, okay. I get
Rehearsal
it.
is the
No.
24th.
I'm gonna
and
shut up now, thank you, sorry.
Stay in your lane.
Okay, I know. Well, it was a day off last year. No, day off last year, so that was I heard you different, sorry.
It's okay. You know what it is? It's all this date talking of all these other days,
Yeah.
right? Yes, I get it.
Exactly, Ed.
The actual graduation ceremony is scheduled for May 26th and at 7 p.m. at Evergreen Park High School. We have communicated all these dates with parents. We've also communicated about the number of tickets. We know that we have historically been providing 3 tickets per family for the purposes of being able to fit. We communicated that we are going to wait just a little bit longer just in case there are any COVID concerns that will, kind of slap us at the end, and then we have to retract numbers as we don't want to retract. So, pardon me?
I said, as COVID likes to do.
As COVID likes to do, so we just want to be sure that when we put those numbers out, that we are gonna stick with those numbers. So we want to do our very, very best to get back to normal with the ticket numbers that are provided for everyone. I think the next thing on the list is the fast forward day that we
Yes.
How big is your graduating class this year? I'm sorry. Do
Our
you know?
graduating class is 220, I believe.
Okay, that's a nice size, yeah, so you definitely will be watching numbers in COVID,
I think
yeah.
it's 220.
Yeah, okay.
Do you record or live stream it? Like for?
The plan is to definitely try to do one or the other. We have, we're still kind of discussing what that would look like depending on, especially,
Just thinking for the big families,
Yeah,
you know?
yes,
We've
yes. And the other
typically
part
live
is,
streamed it.
Live stream it, yeah.
We that the last 2 years, which was really
Mhm.
It was great, yeah, live streaming it.
especially if we have issues with numbers of tickets, we would
Definitely.
definitely come up with something to ensure that everyone can see festivities. So, May 27th, Friday, May 27th is a date set for what we would call Fast Forward Day. Fast Forward Day is an opportunity for our 5th graders to come to school. It is a half day. They will actually come to school at Central. The idea is to allow them to experience the.
Is it raining?
It's
What is
just
that?
I think it's a blower.
Okay, just.
Like all of a sudden got super,
Sorry.
like a plane's flying
It's
over.
the air, sorry. Keep
I
going.
scheduled that for dramatic effect.
Well done.
Dramatic effect. Okay, fast forward day is, the idea is to allow 5th graders to actually come in and experience our building, experience our teachers, hear some information about our programming and things that we do at Central, and then basically kind of allow them the space and the time to to kind of be there. On that day is after graduation, so our 8th graders are gone. So what that means by fast forward day is we just push everyone forward. 5th graders go to 6th grade, 6th grade goes to 7th, and 7th will go to 8th.
So they get their chance to.
Everyone gets a chance to
Step
get a
up too.
taste of
That's a great idea, wow.
About the 8th graders, do they fast forward at the high school?
the 8th graders. Yes, they can. They'll probably be at Culver's more than likely, or something like that.
They'll have already been graduated, so
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
they'll probably be hanging out or sleeping. That's what they'll be doing.
Yeah, I think that's more the cause.
So yes, that is the update for this
When
time.
did the pictures come back?
You know what? I don't know. What the
I'm assuming they would come back before retake day, or do they not get to take it if they don't like the picture, only if they were absent on that day?
So my understanding is you can retake if you would like to retake. You don't have to be missing to take
I
it.
see.
That is the way it has been explained to me with the company. The concern about when they come back, I think every picture that's taken may come back digitally so that you can choose which ones you would want.
Oh, I see, okay. So it'll be before the retake day on the 8th. Right. You would you'd have to see it to know if you want to retake.
Right.
Says the photographer over there.
I will just say, you can note on the side, I will volunteer Dr. Don Parker for May 19th Six Flags and May 20th.
That's what happens when you don't come to a board meeting, right? Sign up for stuff.
Put them on the list.
Yes. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shannon.
So much fun.
I like it. Yeah, you've got a grad this year.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
He's in trouble.
All right, next we have Mr. Grossi.
The most
Come on
exciting
over.
part of the
Come
day.
on now.
Statement of revenues looks pretty good this month. We received roughly $2.5 million in the education fund over the last month. And that's actually trending with last year. We received roughly $2 million in February last year as well. Most of the revenues is just down to timing of payments and just a trend of what the state payments are. You'll notice that the statement of expenditures is kind of the same increase as usual. Salaries and benefits were the main expense in the last month. And then I want to put note that 58% of our budget is spent at the moment, which is better. We're on track for good spending, and compared to 61% from last year. So
Oh, good, yeah.
total fund balance went up roughly $1 million since last month. It was pretty steady the last couple of months, but since we received so much revenue, it helped out our fund balances. And then over the last month, I received 9 FOIAs, 1 from Mr. Tom Nugent that has been completed, 4 from Miss Adrienne Kyle that have been completed, 1 from Miss Ann Smith that has been completed, 1 from Mr. Nathan Mahalik that has been completed, and 1 from Mr. Ted Novak, and that has also been completed.
Thanks for all your work on that.
Yes, thank you for your
Mr.
work.
FOIA officer
I
here.
know, right?
Grossi.
Yes.
Doing a lot of work.
Yeah, it's significant.
Yeah.
Dr. Carlson, I see you coming.
I think I'm next. I think you are, page 2.
Page 2. So I have a few things that I'm sharing out tonight on. I'm excited. The first one being Bpac. So we're gonna go to the next slide. Our Bpac is our Bilingual Parent Advisory Committee. So as you might be familiar, any school that has a transitional bilingual program, which we do, you then establish a Bpac committee. So our committee is comprised of primarily parents. We can have community members if they are also willing to serve. 2/3 of the committee though has to be parents of students in the bilingual programs. It's really that they kind of establish this committee and really help us to guide our work for our EL programs. So our committee is exciting because they really meet regularly. The committee from my previous district, they met a few times a year. Our committee is jump selling. They meet monthly, which is exciting, and they're very active.
How many people are in the?
We don't always have as many in attendance at our meetings, generally 4 to 5 here at our last meeting. But we, Meg, our president, she records it and then also shares it out for families who are not able to be in attendance.
That's awesome.
Meg Laura is our president, Anna Reyes is our vice president, and Rena Flores is our secretary. So we appreciate the work that they put in. One of the things that I also enjoy that they really do a lot of is parent education on our programming that we have and different things that really impact this community, and that's exciting. They also plan events, which we appreciate.
Which are well attended.
Yes. So the next slide, I think, this was the Day of the Dead event that they had. We had 3 events planned this year. One we had to cancel right after Christmas due to COVID, so hopefully we'll be able to get that one going next year. This one was well attended. They decorated cookies and watched Encanto, and it was a great night for families. We have another event, a Holi event, which celebrates the Indian holiday of Holi, which is celebrating kind of spring's victory over winter. And that event, the next, is due to be Friday, which I don't know if you've seen the weather. It's like 100% chance of rain on Friday.
Weathers are not gonna work well on.
So we are looking at some other dates that will
Yeah,
be.
because that would be fun to look at, like photograph.
Yep. He has RSVP'd with us. So.
Oh, you do?
So we're guessing that we are gonna need to reschedule, but we do have some dates that we're working on for that. So it's very seldom that it actually says like
I have the
100%
same
chance
event
of
at my school that
Right.
so I'm doing that and I'm running the same event at my school that I
Are
teach
you?
at. So I'm like, okay, wait, what?
Well,
Did you just
maybe
say?
our next date will be it's
okay.
great.
I have to send an email out.
So I really appreciate the work that this committee puts in, and they really do an excellent job. So thanks to all of them.
And thanks for inviting the entire board to the
Yes.
event. I would have gone
I
with
was coming
minus the 100% chance of
Chance of
rain.
rain.
So keep us abreast if you do
Absolutely.
change the date, because I will try to come as well.
Perfect.
Me and Michael will be on a date.
There you go. The next thing that I wanted to share with you, it is our definite busy time of year for all of the assessments that we have to do annually. So the first one being access testing, which is for our EL kiddos. That test was completed. It definitely takes some time. It's a pretty lengthy test for all of them. And our EL teachers just did a wonderful job scheduling that, moving all of the pieces around. Tracy Ferguson was one. She worked extra and covered several buildings, so I just appreciate all of the work that they did to get those tests in. The Iar Test is happening now, which is exciting. So students are testing in reading math grades 3 to 8, so that's occurring at this time. The ISA test is the science assessment. Some of our buildings have done that and chose to do it before the Iar test. Some are going to do it right after. So that window is a little bit longer. They have more of an opportunity to take it. It doesn't take as long. It's only grades 5 through 8, grade 5 and grade 8 that take that one. So I want to also give a shout out to Janet Fedix. She's done a wonderful job of putting all of these students in the system, in sessions, and she starts the sessions, keeps an eye on the tests, and does the accommodations. So she's really done a lot of work for that. And I know that there's a tech side too, so thanks to Matt for also making sure that everything is working and helping us when it's not. So that's great. And then lastly, the Osat Test, which is the cognitive ability test that our second graders and 5th graders take. This is for the Project Tree program, so they take those tests annually as well. We're looking at 2nd grade take a paper pencil version of that test, so we're looking at taking those the first part of April, and then the 5th graders take those online, so they can take those a little bit later, and the results are immediate. So Project Tree teachers run that beautifully, and again, schedule and make all of the pieces work together, so I appreciate them as well. So that's testing. My last thing, our district math committee has been meeting and met yesterday and meets again on the 29th. They are doing great work, and they are excited to be in the room. They are excited to be looking at standards. The conversations that they're having around math instruction is huge, and I appreciate it and love just being a fly in the wall at the side of their table as they're talking through these things is great. The next slide kind of shows what our process is and has been. So our teachers began in January individually looking at all of their standards and making choices just on their own, what they felt were priorities for all of those standards. They then met in grade level teams within their buildings and compared, given the criteria, compared what they had selected. And then at a district team level, so all of the first grade teachers across the district, across all 4 schools, met and discussed the standards at their grade level. And then finally, we moved to our math committee, which is all of the grade levels together, being able to discuss the standards, ensuring that we have alignment and that there aren't gaps in those things. And so number 6 is really where we are. Well, last night we did number 5. We reviewed kind of what our current programming is to see how it is aligning to what we have selected as these priority standards across all of our grades. And so from there, our committee is going back to the buildings, sharing out with their teams, determining what their feedback is as far as what our next steps can be. And then we'll come together again on the 29th and discuss what we're hoping our next steps are. So we've been busy.
Fantastic. Yes. A teacher mentioned having the best math committee meeting ever. When we were at the strategic board meeting, she was so excited.
Well, that's high praise, because math committee meetings are not always a lot of fun, so I'm glad that she loved it.
I hope she's not watching. I'll be in trouble. No names, right? But she was just so excited about the process, and she said it was just the fact that they were having these conversations, and it was a really great conversation, and they knew that change could come and that they could be the ones to make that happen.
That's
it was
awesome.
just really powerful. So
It's fun to watch happen. So
great.
thank you.
Thank you.
We really enjoy you, Dr. Paul.
Why, thank you. I enjoy all of you.
I just love it.
Too. It's all good work. Thank you so much. Okay. So public comments. Sonia, do we have any more? No. Thank you very much. We will move on to board reports then. And that starts off with Judy and the Arrow report, as thorough as it needs to be. So,
This
there you
one
go.
is super brief.
I
because
know.
It truly is, because our regularly scheduled meeting is this coming Monday. So I'm sure I'll have more to report next month, but we did have one special meeting in the past couple weeks. And that was simply to make a final confirmation of the selection for the Associate Executive Director for next year. So we officially confirmed, as the executive board did as well, Dr. Bill Rosland. So he will be joining Arrow, working with Dr. Gannell next year, and then the plan is for him to be the executive director after Dr. Gannell retires.
Exactly.
So he was really highly recommended. I know Dr. Woodland was on the interview committee, but he has experience as a director of a cooperative in Will County, so he's worked in, a system similar to Arrow. So he knows how to manage multiple districts, and I think he came highly recommended. So he will be starting, I think, July 1st, correct?
Yes, he starts July 1st. And it was definitely an extensive interview process. We had, I believe, 4 different sessions and then 4 different committees that followed up after to really determine who the best fit was. And again, as Judy said, he's highly recommended, highly skilled, has, again, extensive experience, and I'm really excited to work with him.
Excellent. When's that building gonna be done?
Next fall, not this fall, next fall.
A year from this fall?
Yeah, so he will officially take over the new building as well.
Oh, wow, that is exciting.
Oh my gosh.
Imagine getting a brand
Brand
new
new
building.
building,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Shiny,
awesome.
new, beautiful building.
Right?
Great, right? Great.
How exciting.
Yep, it's great. Awesome.
Thank you, Judy.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was.
I really appreciate you going to those meetings. I know it's been crazy. Well, I mean, that's extra meetings for board work. I mean,
It is.
hey, welcome aboard.
Saturday
and-
morning meetings.
I know, I've had a lot of special meetings this year.
Yeah, so thank you for all your work.
It's all good
Yeah.
stuff, but it's, yeah,
Rachel,
so
you're
things are
hilarious.
coming along.
A year later, you're like, yeah, that's been great, guys.
I was just thinking that, I'm like, man, if she knew back in April,
What
when
we
we said,
said.
hey, could you be on? No, I'm so grateful for
I'm
everything
happy
you've
to
done.
do it.
It's
a
good
really
work
nice
though. I
group
love,
and it is
yeah,
good
I
work.
love hearing about the report, so I'm sure it's good work. Yeah.
It is.
That's awesome, so thank you. And we look forward to that April meeting, so there'll be more to say. And just a reminder, our April meeting is the second Wednesday of the month, not the third Wednesday of the month, because the third Wednesday of the month is an Easter break week, so spring break week.
So
Okay.
next month it is the 6th, no, the 13th? 13th.
So next up is me, for district review team. Denise was there as well. There were lots of people there. It was, as always, I like the process. I like the celebrations. We get to hear about the things that are going on and the different districts or different buildings in the district. Babies and puppies and graduations and it's all really good stuff. And also service projects that our students are participating in and things like that. So good stuff. Good things are happening, and I love that. So first we started with, there were comments, so just issues that not necessarily came from buildings, but that came from administration or things like that. So the first thing we discussed was the calendar, as we looked at this evening, so the 2023 calendar. So that has been looked at twice now by district review team, and then the final product was presented this evening. And then we discussed the staff party. The original date was back in January. And the answer to so many things is, oh yeah, then there was COVID. So we rescheduled it for a day in May, which is great. And then also scheduled for the end of the school year is the staff appreciation and retiree recognition event. So they made a plan and date, and that is on that last half student attendance day. So the teachers and everybody will still be here. But they'll be happy and relaxed because their students will have left the building. And so that will be our day for that event as well. And then there were 3 issues, I believe, that came up. So the first one was about a comment that was made at CPI training back in February, and that's crisis prevention intervention. It's a lot of words, sorry about that. But it was training that our staff received, and there were some questions that came up from that, that's okay. And so it was really just specifics on some of the questions that came up, and they talked about the response team, and making
Well, what was going on with this training?
Well, I mean, it was an in-service day to the teacher, and the question was, be aware of your organizational, be aware, not like be scared of, but be aware of your organization's approval policy and the risk of restrictive interventions. And then the question was asked by a staff member during the training what that specifically would be. So the presenter wasn't necessarily from our district, so they presented on globally what that would be, but they wanted more specifics. Exactly, they wanted more specifics. So thank you for asking that. So they wanted more specifics about our district, obviously. And so Dr. Woodland explained that every school has a response team, that the child safety comes first, that knowing more about a specific child helps. So that's why it needs to be building specific. There's always the question of if a child is demonstrating harm to themselves or others. You said the words, Dr. Newman, when we were talking about the social workers, right? That's a concern. So that we have that crisis team in place per building. Yeah. And so so like I said, it wasn't beware of, it was be aware that there is that. And so it was actually a really good question that they asked, because every teacher needs to know that exists in their building. So that was the first one. The second issue that was brought up by the staff in the buildings was the Pbis program. And that was because really the last 2 years have not been representative at all. Because in class, events and things like that, and the things that we normally would have been able to do to celebrate our students and good behavior, we haven't been able to do that. And so the question was also we've been missing celebrations, assemblies, reteaching cool tool behavior because, there just hasn't been opportunities. So it was a very lengthy conversation that we had that day as well, about how to, where are we at? Where were we? Where are we at? Where do we want to go? It's not necessarily starting over, but maybe everybody needs a refresher,
Yes.
right? It's time. And so I actually was really happy to read, Sonia, again, your notes are excellent, thank you so much, because I was remembering that a lot of good came from the conversation. So, in this year even, Dr. Carlson has conducted a training via Zoom. A DIRT meeting mentioned that, one of the representatives said maybe we needed to focus on Pbis basics during PLC time. Maybe it was, and these are all just maybes, but this is some of the ideas that were coming up for it. So I just really want to commend everybody that was doing that. Refresher trainings, new teachers to it, old teachers to it, maybe everybody just needs a refresher. Looking at mental and social, emotional health and trauma, consistent management techniques, all of those kinds of things. And then Dr. Woodland mentioned that the next step seemed to be surveying and having administrative discussions about that, having a training this year, still before the end of the year, because again, it's something that needs to happen soon. If possible, yes. Possible dates were discussed, and then also brought by one of the DIRT members was the possibility for a summer work committee to implement Pbis when school resumes again. So doing things this current school year for enhancing training and things like that, but then definitely hitting the ground running with whatever the new Pbis, not necessarily new, but refreshed strategies would be in the next school year. So we're not sidestepping it, we're still doing things this year as well, but also, again, I just wanted to commend their forward thinking to let's really do this over the summer and do even better for our students, so.
Mr. Swilly, he's doing his own version of Pbis Central.
Yes, he is, so.
You don't even realize that you're doing Pbis when you have these little donuts and juice and
Right.
little incentives that you're providing.
As long as you're saying it in a good way.
Aren't donuts and juice always a good thing? That's always a good thing.
Kissing the donkey and the mule or whatever you're doing.
Oh, my daughter was talking about that too. Yes, he was gonna do this. Mom, you're not gonna believe this.
Oh my God. But it gets them talking, and it's
Yes.
positive, so, thank you.
I think the thing,
Oh, sorry.
I think the theme is really this concept of having consistent practices district-wide, having the opportunity to review those consistent practices with a tailored focus on tier 2 and tier 3 behaviors. Like, it's clear that we have an established Pbis system at tier 1, and our principals are able to speak to that. But however, what do we do in the moment that a child's escalated and we now as the classroom teacher have to respond to that particular behavior? So I definitely think it's time to revisit tier 2 and tier 3 behavior interventions and tailor a specific consistent implementation team that really looks at that thoroughly, so we intend to do that as well.
We had
So
some
those were the
discussions earlier about having district-wide assemblies for our kids as it relates to bullying, social emotional learning. Like, where are we with that?
We have not had any district-wide assemblies. It's really more building based. I think what's happening right now is we have to determine what's that common district system, so that team needs to meet first, and then that team could then determine what's the specific next steps. So from our conversations that we've had now administratively, that committee needs to meet, and then from there, by next August, we intend to have a professional development plan in place to support the specific outcomes of that committee.
So it's not happening this year is what you're saying?
Not currently, no.
Okay, that's disappointing.
Well, and I feel like those programs, they are just now opening up to us because of the COVID restrictions. We still don't wanna put, I mean, you don't really wanna put all these kids in a gym for an hour or a 90-minute program when you really need to keep them 3 feet apart. That is the suggested, and you still have COVID. It is not gone. And to keep our kids safe, to do an all-school assembly, like,
Well, and again, I wanna reiterate, the theme is not, Tier 1 is working. I had the opportunity the day after the DIRT committee to visit a building's Pbis committee. There's 302 students in that building, 273 of them don't have any infractions. So what is that telling us? That's telling us that Pbis is working for a majority of students. We're doing something really right, we're doing something really well. So what the administrative team has identified is it's students who have highly escalated behaviors, and how do we respond to these highly escalated behaviors? And also, as a result of a pandemic, we're experiencing students who are coming back from a pandemic that we are not currently, like, we need to know, how do we build capacity with our classroom teachers to be able to respond to those escalated behaviors in the moment as well. So it's a very different philosophy, a very different shift.
Well, historically, the behaviors are gonna increase for everybody from spring break through the end of the school year. So it would be really good if we had something in place from an outside source, because, you know, we can keep talking and saying the same thing, but it's a refreshing experience to have somebody from the outside come in and say what we've already said, but sometimes it just hits differently.
oh, sure, somebody else says it and the kids are like, oh, do you know what they said?
Yeah.
They said I should brush my teeth every day, Mom. You know, somebody said I should brush my teeth every day. Can you believe that, Mom? Like, and you're looking at them like, yeah.
Proactive. I don't like reactive, I like proactive, so it would be good if we did something.
Well, that's why I was gonna ask, is there like a schedule for instruction, like classroom instruction of Pbis? Are there cool tools in place or whatever they're currently being called? Because it's not only assemblies for Pbis.
No,
I mean,
absolutely.
the instruction is like the primary tier
That's-
one.
That's 100%, you're 1,000% accurate, and that's what they're saying, we're doing that well.
Okay,
And
so
we
that
have
is in
evidence to
place.
support that we're doing that well.
Okay.
It's really, again, these behaviors that we're seeing with children that we haven't really seen before, and it's a result of kids not being in school for an extended period of time, and we're trying to learn how to respond to that. So I hope that helps.
And I feel like we do have an SEL program too, right? Do we use Second Step or what?
We have Second Step, yes, currently.
And that does support some of the Tier 1, that supports the Tier 1 learning for the social emotional.
Yes.
But I do agree with you, like, bringing an outside assembly, they do get all excited and get like, that little heightened sense of, oh, let's listen, but I'm sure it's probably a struggle for this year to get anything in with.
And I think different buildings have done different things. It hasn't been like we're gonna do a district assembly. Those are different concepts. So different buildings have approached it differently, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Each building has seen a particular need, and they've maybe brought in a presenter to really address what their particular concerns might be relevant to their students. However, I think what we're saying is we need a consistent practice specific for escalated behaviors, Tier 2 and Tier 3 behaviors.
And I think it speaks volume if it's a district-wide conversation, because a lot of times we have, we've got all these buildings that are gonna feed into Central. Well, if they're getting the message, the same message in elementary school, then it's reinforced when they get to Central.
Right.
Well, I feel like the Pbis does recognize, that is the concept of Pbis. So not only do they feed into Central, but the first grade teacher teaches those classroom cool tools and how Pbis works, about going to the bathroom, walking in the hall, that the second grade teacher now builds off of it because it's, and it's structured. So I feel like we do have a strong Pbis system for Tier 1 and to teach them their, but yeah, like obviously if there's need for further strengthening for the teachers to build the capacity to have a stronger Pbis classroom, then yeah, go for it.
That is something that they have been trying to do.
If you want classroom management, go for it. If you wanna run a free-for-all, I don't know what to tell you.
Let me finish this report, if that's okay. But it was a really good conversation, and I love that we're having one too, because that's the whole point.
Yes, for
So,
sure.
it was good. And like I said, I really appreciated that they even pinpointed like things we could do now, things we can do, moving forward over the summer and in the fall. And then finally, the third staff was if the principal and assistant principal are not in the building, who's in charge of making decisions? Which I thought was a very reasonable question to ask. And there was chain of command responsibility question, and asked if former EAs can be called for support was a question. So, just having that in, also in the habit, like, okay, we know what to do when there's something going on. So, there you go. So again, very helpful meeting, and our next DIRT meeting is March 20, so 2 weeks, March 28th. No, don't rush us.
Not quite.
No, so 2 weeks from, there's a lot going on, Judy. You've got a Monday meeting, we've got a Monday meeting, all right. So, next we will move on to our action items. And we will start with our consent agenda. Consent agenda item number A is to approve the monthly transaction reports for February of 2022. Number 2 is to approve the fund balance reports for February of 2022. Number 3 is to approve expenditure report and projected payroll report for March 2022. Number 4 is to approve board minutes from the regular meeting of February 16th, 2022. Number 5 is to approve the closed session minutes from the regular meeting of February 16th, 2022. Number 6 is to approve destruction of closed session tapes from November of 17. And number 7 is to consent to the personnel recommendations as listed on the agenda. I don't think there's anything outstanding there. So if I could please have a first motion to accept consent agenda A.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Rachel. And a second?
I'll second.
Great, thank you, Judy. And roll call?
Rachel Merrickwin?
Yes.
Judy Rayson?
Yes.
Michael Miller? Denise Jones?
Yes.
Kim Leonard, yes. Claudia Parker?
Yes.
Colleen Clemzak?
Yes.
Motion is passed.
Great. Action item B is to approve the summer school principal. If I could have a first motion, please.
I'll make the first motion.
I'll second.
Okay, so Claudia and Kim, and a roll call, please.
Kim Leonard, yes. Claudia Parker?
Yes.
Judy Rayson?
Yes.
Rachel Merrickwin?
Yes.
Michael Miller? Denise Jones?
Yes.
Colleen Clemzak?
Yes.
Motion is passed.
Great, thank you. Item number C is to approve the job description for the full-time instructional coach. And that job description was shared in an email to us and is also present at our places at the table. If I could have a first motion to approve that job description.
Make the motion.
And a second, please.
I'll second.
And a roll call.
Michael Miller?
Yay.
Rachel Merrickwin?
Yes.
Denise Jones?
Yes.
Judy Rayson?
Yes.
Kimberly Leonard, yes. Claudia Parker?
Yes.
Colleen Clemzak?
Yes.
Motion is passed.
Item D is to approve the second reading and adoption of new board policy 4165 as recommended by the Illinois Association of School Boards. If I could have a first motion, please.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Judy. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Rachel. And a roll call, please.
Judy Rayson?
Yes.
Rachel Merrickwin?
Yes.
Michael Miller? Denise Jones?
Yes.
Kim Leonard, yes. Claudia Parker?
Yes.
Colleen Clemzak?
Yes.
Motion is passed.
Great. Item E is to approve the second readings and adoption of revised board policies.
And no, you don't have to read them all.
Did you hear the breath I took?
I know.
I was ready. As listed on the agenda and as discussed at previous board meetings from our policy committee. So item number E, if I could have a first motion, please.
I'll make the first.
I'll second.
Thank you. And a roll call?
Kim Leonard, yes. Rachel Merrickwin?
Yes.
Denise Jones?
Yes.
Michael Miller? Judy Rayson?
Yes.
Claudia Parker?
Yes.
Colleen Clemzak.
Yes.
Motion passed.
So action item F is our question about the waivers. And to sum up where we ended up.
I'll make a motion to approve the waivers regarding the school holidays.
Okay,
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
and a roll call?
Kim Leonard, yes. Judy Rayson?
Yes.
Rachel Merrickwin?
No.
Michael Allmiller?
Yay.
Denise Jones?
No.
Claudia Parker?
Hard no.
Colleen Clemzak.
Yes.
Motion is passed with a 4-3.
G is to approve our COVID-19 resolution as is in your board packet and was discussed at last month's meeting. If I could have a first motion, please.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Michael, and a second,
I'll second.
and a roll call, please.
Michael Allmiller?
Yay.
Rachel Merrickwin?
Yes.
Denise Jones?
Yes.
Judy Rayson?
Yes.
Claudia Parker?
Yes.
Kim Leonard, yes. Colleen Clemzak?
Yes.
Motion is passed.
And then finally, on our consent agenda is item number H, and that is to approve the calendar for the 22-23 school year as presented at the meeting. If I could have a first motion for that, please,
I'll make the first motion.
and a second,
I'll second.
and a roll call.
Kim Leonard, yes. Judy Rayson?
Yes.
Denise Jones?
No.
Michael Allmiller?
Yay.
Rachel Merrickwin?
Yes.
Claudia Parker?
In respect to our veterans, no.
Colleen Clemzak?
Yes.
Motion is passed, 5-2.
Thank you very much. So next on our agenda is to recess to closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or legal counsel to determine its validity. Also, collective negotiations matters between the district and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees. If I could have a motion to recess to closed session.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Michael, and a second?
I'll second.
Great. And a roll call?
Michael Allmiller?
Yay.
Claudia Parker?
Yes.
Kim Leonard, yes. Judy Rayson? Denise Jones?
Yes.
Rachel Merrickwin?
Yes.
And Claudia Parker. I'm sorry. You want to vote twice?
Again.
Colleen Clemzak.
Still yes, and still yes.
All right, motion is passed to go into closed session.
Great, thank you